Our new story begins in a forest where the trees are as bony and twisted as an old woman's finger. Pitch black mold and moss spread across the ground, while a strangely murky sky hangs above the land. It is a place teeming with bizarre monsters that would never exist in reality. One creature, resembling an alien predator, holds a man's head in its jaws as it prepares to bite. The man struggles desperately, grabbing the monster's head, but the creature forces itself forward and eventually bites through his skull. That man is Woojin, the main character of this story. Whenever he dies in that place, he wakes up from the dream. He wakes up drenched in sweat, clutching his neck. For 12 years, he has endured the pain of dying as if it were real. "That damn dream again," he mutters. Woojin lives in the city, and whenever he encounters monsters in his dream, he writes down their weaknesses and the easiest ways to defeat them. He can endure the pain of dying, but what hurts more is sleep itself. He is exhausted from constant lack of sleep. If he falls asleep in reality, he is sent back to that nightmare world, where he must fight monsters. If he dies in the nightmare world, he returns to reality. Because of this cycle, there is no way for him to get a proper night's sleep. To stop dying in that hellish dream, Woojin spent the last 12 years doing everything he could to prepare. He studied weaponry, martial arts, swordsmanship, jungle survival, and military tactics. Because of this effort, he slowly began dying less often in his nightmares. However, the biggest problem remained sleep. He even consulted a doctor, but the only advice he received was to find something he truly wanted to do, so he might finally sleep well. That advice was not helpful at all. When he thought about what he truly wanted, he looked at the records he had carefully stored on his bookshelf. At that moment, he already knew that the only thing he truly wanted was simply to fall asleep. As he thought about wanting to sleep soundly, even just once, blood suddenly began dripping from his nose. An unimaginable dizziness overwhelmed him. His vision darkened, his consciousness faded, and he eventually collapsed on the floor after losing too much blood. That was how he died. Suddenly, his body felt light, and the terrible headache he had endured for 12 years completely disappeared. For the first time in years, it felt like fresh, clean air was filling his chest and head. He felt as if he had finally slept properly, something he had never experienced during those 12 long years. He wondered if he had truly died. When Woojin opened his eyes, he discovered that he was sitting under a large tree. It was the same nightmare world where he had suffered for 12 years. Soon, he noticed something approaching. A giant lizard-like monster with a long tongue and multiple eyes moved nearby, forcing him to hide quickly. Considering the amount of blood he lost, he believed he might truly be dead. If that was the case, then dying in this nightmare world would mean there was no reality left to return to. Accepting this possibility, he decided that this place was now his new reality. As the monster searched the area for prey, Woojin understood exactly what kind of world this was and what he needed to do to survive. In this situation, he should normally run toward a bright place that monsters hate. But for some reason, he unsheathed his sword and jumped forward to face the monster instead. He did not want to run away. Perhaps it was because he had finally slept deeply for the first time in years, or maybe because his new body felt younger than his real one. The monster rushed toward him, opening its mouth to devour him. Woojin's entire body screamed at him to fight and survive. In a single swift movement, he slashed his sword and cut the monster clean in half. The creature collapsed to the ground. He had successfully hunted it. Woojin then dismantled part of the monster and discovered a blue core inside. Without hesitation, he picked it up and began eating it. As he gazed into the dark sky with red eyes and monster blood still in his mouth, he made a promise to himself that he would survive in this dark fantasy world no matter what. His first step would be to travel toward a brighter place. Woojin slept on top of a huge tree where a ray of light reached the branches. When he woke up, he smiled, realizing he had another night of perfect sleep. He prepared to continue his journey once again. As he cut some vines nearby, he remembered that it had already been a month since he began crossing this world. He continued traveling from the pitch-black darkness toward the light. Even though he now felt the urge to fight, he never hunted recklessly because he knew that risking his life for fun was madness. Still, he could not completely suppress the desire to battle. The only times he hunted were when he needed food. Soon, he felt hungry. With a single strike, he slashed the head off a bat monster. After killing a monster, he always searched for its essence and ate it, hoping to gain a chance of acquiring the monster's power. As he rested on a tree, he realized that ever since he began consuming monster essence, adapting to this world had become easier. He also discovered another important fact. He found a tag and learned that the body he now possessed belonged to someone with the status of a third-class mercenary. For some reason, he could read the writing on it. The existence of such a token meant that people were living somewhere in this world. Not long after, he finally saw a light within the forest. As he followed it, he noticed traps placed on the ground. Traps clearly meant for monsters. That meant people must be nearby. Excited, Wu Jin ran toward the light. When he finally left the forest, he saw a small house. He froze for a moment before slowly approaching it. He knocked on the door, opened it, and called out to ask if anyone was inside, but there was no response. Inside, he noticed a book lying on the table. When he opened it, he discovered it was titled Demonic Realm Chronicles. The book contained the history of this world and was written very meticulously. Wu Jin immediately realized that if he wanted to survive here, the book was absolutely necessary. Just then, someone entered the house and pointed a crossbow at him, demanding to know who he was. The old man warned him to answer clearly, or he would put a hole in his head. Wu Jin thought to himself that although he was glad to finally see another person, he never expected to be mistaken for a robber. He calmly turned around and told the old man not to misunderstand. He explained that he had only entered out of curiosity after seeing a house in such a remote place. The old man told him to leave immediately, saying he had no business with him. Wu Jin agreed, but before leaving, he asked if he could borrow the book because he wanted to read it. He added that he was willing to pay a price if necessary. The old man asked what Wu Jin would do if he refused. Wu Jin thought for a moment. He knew that he absolutely needed the book to survive. Slowly, he grabbed the weapon at his waist and told the old man that he might have no choice but to become a robber. The two faced each other with fierce focus. Wu Jin carefully observed the old man. Even though he did not know how strong the man was, he strangely felt that he would not lose. The old man suddenly sighed, lowered his weapon, and admitted that a real robber would never talk about wanting to read a book. He then greeted Wu Jin and introduced himself as Hector. Wu Jin was surprised that Hector lowered his guard so quickly. He introduced himself as Kim Wu Jin, but Hector misheard the name as Gimuji and commented that it sounded quite peculiar. Wu Jin asked him to simply call him Jin, thinking that his real name must be difficult to pronounce in this new world. Hector then explained that the book was very precious to him and that he could not lend it out. However, if Wu Jin wanted to read it, he could stay in the house for a while. In return, he would help with simple chores. Wu Jin thanked him, and because of that encounter, he ended up staying in Hector's house. He noticed that Hector was rough, but he did not seem like a bad person. That night, they cooked a stew. Hector told him to eat. Wu Jin stared at the bowl for a moment. It had been a long time since he last had warm soup. As he began eating, tears slowly fell from his eyes. The soup was so delicious that he even wondered if Hector might actually be an angel. Every morning when the sun rose, Hector would go out hunting. One day, he told Wu Jin that his hunt might take longer than usual. He explained that he intended to take revenge on the monster that had killed his comrades. Wu Jin noticed that Hector seemed unusually nervous that day, even though he looked strong. From this, Wu Jin concluded that the monster must be extremely powerful. While Hector was away, Wu Jin spent his time reading the chronicles. According to the book, all the stories began with the Northern Empire. Its king, blinded by greed, laid his hands on the otherworldly gate said to contain the truth of all creation and immense power. However, the moment the king opened that gate, calamity began. Powerful monsters poured out from the otherworldly gate and transformed the North into a demonic realm in only 9 years. In response, humanity united many factions and formed the Order Alliance. The Order Alliance eventually built a barrier to prevent the demonic realm from spreading further. After reading that part, Wu Jin closed the book and reflected on what he had learned. The book contained a great deal of useful information, but something about it seemed strange. According to the chronicles, the deeper one traveled into the demonic realm, the stronger the monsters would become. Wu Jin realized that as he moved toward the light, the monsters had been getting weaker. Outside the house, Hector suddenly came running back while Wu Jin was still thinking about how deep within the demonic realm he must have wandered before reaching this place. Wu Jin wondered just how strong he truly was in this world. Hector was being chased by monsters. He stopped and fired his crossbow, but the werewolves easily slashed the arrow out of the air. Hector was shocked that not even a single arrow could get through. As he continued running, he suddenly saw Wu Jin stepping out of the house with his sword. Wu Jin walked forward calmly and prepared to attack. Hector shouted for him to run, warning that the monsters were too dangerous. But Wu Jin ignored the warning. He rushed past Hector and charged directly toward the monsters. Hector stared in disbelief. Wu Jin, however, moved with the focus of a hunter who had spotted his prey. He leapt toward one of the werewolves. The creature raised its arm to strike, but Wu Jin's sword cut through its arm and body in a single slash. The other werewolf hesitated and did not dare to attack. Hector stood there in shock, unable to believe that Wu Jin had just killed a werewolf with one strike. Wu Jin then turned to Hector and calmly asked if the monster he had just slain was considered strong. Hector repeated his question to make sure he understood it correctly, then confirmed that the monster Wu Jin had slain was indeed considered incredibly strong. Wu Jin felt slightly confused by that answer. He turned toward the remaining wolf, thinking he would hear more after dealing with the rest of the monsters. The pack stood still, unmoving. As Wu Jin prepared to attack, he thought that the monsters did not look that strong. Even if there were 40 of them, it would only be dangerous if he became careless. Instead of fighting all of them, he decided to target the one that appeared to be second in command and break their morale. He identified the large-built wolf standing at the front as their leader. Wu Jin released a tremendous killing intent as he prepared to strike. But the moment he locked eyes with the new leader, the creature lowered its gaze, turned away, and slowly retreated. It ran as if it were crying, yapping loudly as if ordering the others to flee. One by one, the remaining wolves followed and escaped. Hector was puzzled, as wolves were known for their bravery. Wu Jin, however, was impressed. The second in command had assessed the situation correctly. Rather than letting all of them die with their leader, it chose survival, even if it meant abandoning their honor. Inside Hector's cabin, they placed the werewolf leader's hide on the table. Hector explained that it was worth at least 50 gold coins. Wu Jin asked if that was a large amount, and Hector confirmed that it was enough to live comfortably for 6 to 7 years. Wu Jin was amazed. To him, the monster had seemed pathetically weak, yet it carried such a high bounty. He smiled, thinking that whenever he needed money, he could simply hunt similar monsters and earn huge rewards. For the first time, he felt that his new life might be easier than the past 12 years. Hector then prepared supplies for Wu Jin's journey, including the werewolf hide, jerky, a pouch of silver coins, and a pioneer map. He packed everything and instructed Wu Jin to take the hide to the pioneer village. He marked a location on the map where Wu Jin could find a man named Jacob, who would buy the hide for a fair price. Wu Jin asked if it was really okay to give something so valuable without hesitation. Hector firmly replied that it was simply payment for killing the werewolf, as he had carried a deep grudge against it. He then extended his hand, thanking Wu Jin for taking revenge on his behalf and expressing hope that they would meet again. Wu Jin shook his hand and thanked him in return. After preparing, Wu Jin left the cabin and began his journey through the forest. From a distance, the second-in-command wolf could be seen silently observing him. After some time, Wu Jin arrived at the pioneer village. He was surprised by how well built its defenses were. For a small settlement, it was well stocked. After the guard confirmed his identity, he entered and noticed the wary gazes of the villagers. He assumed it was because he was a stranger, and in a world where people could be more dangerous than monsters, their caution was understandable. Wu Jin entered a tavern where adventurers gathered to drink, eat, and gamble. Sitting near the barkeeper, he was offered beer, but he declined and instead asked about a man named Jacob. A man sitting nearby overheard him. It was Jacob himself. Jacob asked why Wu Jin was looking for him. Wu Jin hesitated, as Jacob had the face of a scammer, but he explained that Hector had sent him to sell a werewolf hide. Jacob was shocked and immediately began inspecting the hide. Even though Jacob assumed Hector had killed the monster, Wu Jin did not correct him. When Jacob confirmed it was genuine, he expressed disbelief and pride, claiming he knew Hector could do it. However, the atmosphere suddenly turned hostile as the people around them began surrounding Wu Jin. Wu Jin asked why they were acting that way. Jacob, now holding the werewolf hide as if it were already his, told Wu Jin to read the situation, leave quietly, and he might spare his life. Wu Jin sighed, realizing his suspicion was correct. Scammer faces did not lie. He reminded them that Hector trusted this village and asked if this was how they conducted business. Jacob responded mockingly, claiming it was merely an investment. He explained that supplying Hector had caused him losses, and he needed the werewolf hide to recover them. Wu Jin considered ending him, but restrained himself, deciding not to take a life over a hide. However, as he was about to let it go, Jacob threw beer in his face and told him to leave. Wu Jin calmly stood and walked toward the door. Jacob smirked, thinking he had made the smart choice, but then Wu Jin suddenly lifted a cabinet and blocked the exit. Calling out to Jacob, Wu Jin, with the eyes of a hunter, warned that if he intended to scam someone, he should have attacked properly from the front. Jacob laughed it off and ordered his men to attack. One man swung a broadsword, but Wu Jin countered instantly, slashing through his stomach. Another attacked with an axe, but Wu Jin dodged, hurled a table at him, and cut through both the table and the man. He then turned his cold gaze toward Jacob. Fear froze Jacob in place as he questioned where such a monster had come from. Wu Jin cut down another attacker, blocked the last one with his shoulder, and finished him with a final slash. The room fell silent, bodies lying across the floor. As Wu Jin approached, Jacob panicked and ordered everyone to flee. They jumped through the windows and escaped outside. But when Jacob landed, he saw something shocking: a red wolf standing in the village. At that moment, Wu Jin caught up. With the red wolf in front and Wu Jin behind, Jacob found himself trapped. Wu Jin recognized the wolf as the scout from the earlier attack on Hector. He asked if it had followed him just to meet the same fate as its leader. The red wolf trembled, rolled on the ground, and wagged its tail like a tamed dog. Everyone watching was confused, including Wu Jin. After observing it closely, Wu Jin wanted to test something. He pointed at Jacob and the others and gave a single command: "Bite." Without hesitation, the red wolf obeyed and lunged at them, tearing into their necks. Wu Jin smiled, satisfied that the wolf had followed his command. Jacob stood frozen in terror as the red wolf tore through his men. Paralyzed by fear, his only instinct was to find a way out of the slaughter. He viewed Wu Jin as a moron, a simpleton who would surely fold if he just offered a few hollow apologies. Dropping to his knees, Jacob bowed low, pathetically begging for his life and swearing to do anything Wu Jin commanded. Yet, even as his forehead hit the dirt, he was already plotting his bloody revenge. Wu Jin's response was swift. He slammed his sword into the earth, the blade grazing Jacob's head. Blood trickled down Jacob's face as he looked up, suddenly addressing Wu Jin with deep respect. Wu Jin stared back with cold eyes, seeing right through the act. He knew Jacob viewed him as a pushover. The moment triggered a memory of his time on Earth, of a time when his salary never came. His old factory manager had offered empty apologies, asking him to let the issue slide just once. Back then, Wu Jin was soft-hearted and yielded, a decision he lived to regret. Once he backed down, a week's delay turned into months, and when he finally demanded his due, the manager met him with rage. Wu Jin had been branded as selfish and treated like a doormat while struggling to survive month to month. That hardship taught him one definitive lesson. As Wu Jin turned his back, Jacob seized his chance. With a wicked smile, he drew a short sword and lunged. But Wu Jin was ready. He caught Jacob's hand mid-air as if he had anticipated the betrayal from the start. He looked at the man and remarked that guys like him who scam others never truly understand the meaning of remorse. With a single, decisive strike, Wu Jin ended him. He made a silent vow to himself. He would never be a pushover again in this life. Jacob's body hit the ground with a thud. Wu Jin turned his gaze toward the red wolf, wondering what he should do with it. To his surprise, the wolf approached and offered him a pouch of gold coins. It was a gesture of submission. The wolf had decided to follow him. Sheathing his sword, Wu Jin asked the creature if it would like to tag along. The wolf responded by resting its head against Wu Jin's chest, sealing a silent bond between them. Wu Jin accepted his new companion, simply naming him Mutt. The following morning, Wu Jin awoke in a bed with Mutt nearby. He felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years, a morning so refreshing he felt as though he could fly. While washing his clothes at a nearby stream, he reflected on the previous day. He had taken lives, not just one, but many. Curiously, he felt no guilt. He wondered if it was because those people were scum, but he realized the truth was deeper. The thrill he felt was the same as when he hunted monsters. He knew something inside of him was starting to change. He wondered if he might be cursed, but he had survived, and that was good enough news. As Wu Jin and the Red Wolf started their journey together, he remained unsure of what lay ahead. One thing was certain: his new life in this world would be vastly different from his original one. He would not suffer. He would live in abundance and simply enjoy the present. After a long journey, they reached the 5th pioneer city. Wu Jin decided to sell the werewolf hide first, ordering Mutt to stay nearby but keep out of sight. Upon entering the city, he remembered from the Book of Chronicles that he needed to visit the Order Alliance to receive a monster bounty. Wu Jin arrived at the branch and confirmed its location with the man stationed there. When he dropped the werewolf pelt on the counter, the man initially thought it was just dog skin, telling Wu Jin he was in the wrong place to pull off pranks. However, when the man actually checked the pelt, he was shocked to find it was a genuine werewolf. He asked if Wu Jin had caught it by himself, and Wu Jin confirmed he had. He was invited inside and asked to wait. After some time, an official returned, apologizing for the delay and explaining that they had to ensure the pelt was authentic. Once the deal was confirmed, the man handed over the reward. Wu Jin now held enough money to live lazily for at least 6 or 7 years. It felt unreal until he saw it in person, a trembling feeling quite different from the adrenaline of hunting. Wu Jin smiled as he checked his reward, thinking that money was definitely a good thing. The official then spoke up to get his attention. "Excuse me," he said, asking if Wu Jin would be interested in taking another request, as he happened to have a favor to ask. Wu Jin felt a spark of excitement at the prospect of a new task so soon. The man in the red robe explained that a monster had recently appeared at a nearby quarry, causing a massive headache for the city. The quarry had become too dangerous for the workers to enter, and since they couldn't mine bloodstone, the city's economy was on the brink of ruin. Those who had seen the creature reported that it was stronger than a werewolf. Despite this, the man felt that Wu Jin could handle it. When Wu Jin asked what kind of monster it was, the man identified it as Mad Skull, a creature with a bounty of 70 gold coins. Wu Jin remembered reading about the Mad Skull in the Book of Chronicles. It was a monster he had already faced in the past, known for its iron-hard skull and insane aggression. Its strength was incomparable to a werewolf, which was why the city was struggling. In his past experience, it had taken Wu Jin a full month to hunt it successfully because he had died 28 times at its hands. The man asked if he could subdue the beast. With absolute confidence, Wu Jin confirmed that he could. His next prey had been decided. Wu Jin made his way to the quarry to hunt his next prey. Upon arrival, he found the site completely deserted, confirming the information provided by the Order Alliance. The mine had a gloomy, chilling atmosphere, the kind of place where no one would want to linger. Deciding to finish the job quickly, Wu Jin headed toward the entrance, but a voice suddenly called out to him. A man with a bandana and red hair approached, apologizing and asking Wu Jin to wait his turn. He explained that his team had arrived first and was currently preparing for battle. Wu Jin was baffled by the request. "Since when is there a queue for hunting monsters?" he asked bluntly. The red-haired man fell silent, unable to offer a good rebuttal. Instead, he suggested that Wu Jin join their team so they could hunt together. Wu Jin considered his options. If he waited for them to finish and the mercenaries succeeded, it would be a massive waste of his time. While he wasn't thrilled about sharing the loot, he figured working together might be more efficient than fighting over priority. However, after his recent experience with Jacob's group, he found it difficult to trust anyone. "Why recruit me when you already have such a large team?" Wu Jin asked. The red-haired man admitted, somewhat embarrassed, that he prioritized safety over performance. Having one more strong fighter like Wu Jin would be a major asset. Wu Jin noticed the man had switched to a very formal tone. It confirmed his suspicion. These mercenaries were naturally deferential to those they perceived as powerful. When Wu Jin asked why he was considered strong, the man pointed at the red wolf, noting that such a beast wouldn't follow someone who wasn't formidable. Wu Jin then saw Mutt being pampered by a blonde woman. She expressed her amazement, explaining that because wolf monsters are so fiercely independent, even the Order Alliance had failed to tame them. Wu Jin was confused, as he had specifically ordered Mutt to stay hidden. Then he saw why the wolf had appeared. Mutt was busy eating high-quality meat offered by the lady, a delicacy Wu Jin himself hadn't even tasted yet. Mutt seemed to feel Wu Jin's gaze. After one bite, he nervously dropped the meat and kicked it toward his master. Though Wu Jin felt a bit belittled by his pet's charity, his body moved on its own. He couldn't remember the last time he'd had a real meat dish. He struggled with his pride. The meat was on the ground and had been touched by a dog, but just as he reached for it, the blonde lady stopped him. She kindly offered him a fresh portion, asking if he was hungry. In that moment, Wu Jin looked at her as if she were a goddess he could truly trust. As they ventured into the quarry, lit by stone-carved lanterns, Wu Jin happily finished the meat. It was incredible. Savory, juicy, and with a spicy kick reminiscent of Sichuan cuisine. It was a world away from the monster flesh he'd forced down just to survive in the past. The blonde woman interrupted his thoughts to introduce the group. The red-haired captain was Jonathan, leader of the Black Marlin mercenary group, and she was Claire. Wu Jin introduced himself simply as Jin. Jonathan welcomed him warmly, telling him to ask any questions he might have. Eventually, they reached a wide, open area. "This is where we face the Mad Skull," Jonathan announced. He began barking orders, directing the trap team to set their nets and the spearmen to take their positions. Then, Wu Jin witnessed something he had only ever read about in books. Magic. Claire held a book, drew a magic circle, and began an incantation. I ask in the name of Claire, send blessings upon this land. She cast a spell called Feather Step on Jonathan. Feathers manifested in the air, and Jonathan looked pleased, noting that her buffs were as excellent as ever. She warned him he had 5 minutes at most. Jonathan then charged forward with gravity-defying speed to lure the monster. Woojin watched with excitement, wondering if he could eventually learn to use magic himself. A member of the spear team shouted for everyone to stay sharp, warning that a single mistake could cost them their lives. Woojin observed their strategy, luring the beast into a trap to overwhelm it with firepower. It wasn't a bad plan, but he wasn't sure it would be enough for a creature like this. A moment later, Jonathan reappeared with the mad skull hot on his heels. As they reached the kill zone, the trap team sprang into action, throwing a massive net over the beast. "Pull!" they screamed, straining to hold it down. On Jonathan's signal, the spearmen unleashed a volley of steel. The mad skull roared in agony and went into a total rampage. It began dragging the men holding the nets across the floor. From his vantage point, Woojin could see the mercenaries were being overpowered. Despite their numbers, they couldn't anchor the beast. With a final burst of strength, the mad skull tore through the netting and charged straight for Claire. Just as she began to cast a desperate spell, Woojin stepped in. He met the charging monster head-on, stopping the mad skull with his bare hands. He was pushed back by the sheer momentum, but he held his ground, halting the beast in its tracks. A worried Claire shouted out that it was too dangerous, but Woojin calmly told her, "Don't worry. I know exactly how to take down a mad skull." The mad skull's sheer momentum began to push Woojin back, but he expertly shifted his weight, shoving the beast to the side to redirect its charge. Drawing his broadsword, Woojin delivered a heavy swing, yet the blade failed to leave a mark. He thought he had gotten stronger, but the monster's raw power was still incredible. For a brief moment, Woojin let his guard down, and the beast seized the opening to charge. Just as the impact seemed inevitable, Woojin felt an unnatural lightness take hold of his body. He darted backward with ease, realizing that Claire had cast a supportive buff on him. The magical enhancement was transformative. It felt as though a heavy 30-kilogram rucksack had suddenly been lifted from his shoulders. With this newfound agility, Woojin was confident he could take the beast down using his own specialized tactics. Jonathan and his team rushed forward, offering to assist, but Woojin declined and ordered them to stay back. He explained that in his current state, it would actually be easier to hunt the creature alone. Leading the way, he lured the mad skull into a narrow passage within the quarry. Woojin knew the secret to defeating such a foe. Despite its terrifying name, the mad skull was essentially a giant pig. It could charge at high speeds in a straight line, but it struggled significantly with turning. As Woojin moved in a sharp zigzag pattern, the monster repeatedly slammed into the rocky walls of the passage. Finally, the beast lost its footing, crashing through a wall and sliding helplessly to the ground. Woojin marveled at the potency of Claire's magic as he prepared for the second step of his plan. The creature's tusks were as long as swords and acted like hands, but they were far too hard to be cut. Instead, Woojin aimed for its true weak point, the nose. He lashed out with his broadsword, drawing a scream of agony from the beast. As the mad skull began to rampage blindly from the pain, Woojin seized the moment. He rushed forward and delivered a final, decisive strike to ensure his prey wouldn't get another chance to attack. By the time Jonathan, Claire, and the rest of the mercenaries reached the scene, the area was a chaotic mess of debris and shattered stone. Jonathan was stunned by the destruction, but Claire's only priority was finding Woojin. As they moved to search for him, Mutt stepped forward with a low growl, causing them to freeze in their tracks. The wolf then let out a wide yawn, and Claire realized the creature was telling them not to interfere. Soon, Woojin emerged from the shadows. As he walked toward the group, he was consuming the monster's essence, a concentrated power he simply couldn't resist. When asked about the beast, Wu Jin calmly informed them that the mad skull was gone. All that remained was pork. Jonathan was speechless. He had never heard of a hunter taking down a mad skull entirely on their own. Suddenly, Mutt growled again, alerting the group to a second mad skull emerging from a passage. The mercenaries scrambled to prepare for another fight, but Claire stopped them. She pointed out that the creature was accompanied by piglets, and they all looked strangely mournful. Wu Jin and Mutt watched as the mother nudged her young, clearly preparing to lead them away from the quarry forever. Though Jonathan felt a small ounce of pity, he was relieved the encounter ended peacefully. Later that evening, the group gathered at a tavern in the 5th Pioneer City. Jonathan standing in front, congratulating everyone on a successful hunt with 0 serious injuries. He added that he can't express how happy he is that they finally caught a mad skull. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the distribution of the reward. Claire was puzzled when she saw the overflowing pouches on the table. The bounty was supposed to be 70 gold coins, but there was clearly much more. Jonathan boasted that he had exaggerated the details to the Order Alliance. Since the mission had involved 2 mad skulls and their offspring, making it far more dangerous than advertised, he had demanded a higher payout. The Alliance had relented, awarding them a whopping 100 gold coins. The mercenaries roared with laughter as they toasted their leader. Wu Jin, however, remained skeptical. He leaned in and questioned Jonathan, pointing out the obvious. They hadn't actually fought the mother or the piglets, yet the Order Alliance had still handed over an increased reward. Jonathan met his gaze with a confident, mischievous grin. He admitted to Wu Jin that he had told a little white lie to the officials. The rest of the mercenary group erupted in laughter again, with one of them chiming in that as long as you aren't caught, a lie essentially becomes the truth. Wu Jin couldn't help but sigh and offer a small smile. These mercenaries were certainly an interesting bunch. Jonathan then turned to Wu Jin and made an announcement. He intended to give Wu Jin half of the total reward. Wu Jin was stunned, protesting that half was far too much. However, Jonathan insisted, stating that without Wu Jin's intervention, they all would have met a dog's death. The rest of the team loudly cheered in agreement. For Wu Jin, the experience changed his outlook. The effective trap and Claire's vital buff proved that he could rely on others. He realized that not everyone in this new world was untrustworthy. Raising his own mug, Wu Jin thanked the group and announced that the night's drinks were on him. The mercenaries cheered even louder, joking that they would make sure he spent every coin of his earnings before the sun came up. As the celebration grew rowdy, Wu Jin noticed Claire slipping out of the tavern. Wu Jin called out to ask where she was headed. Claire looked back and explained that she was going to practice her magic. Intrigued by the prospect of seeing how one actually trains magic, Wu Jin decided to follow her. Near a moonlit cliff, she sat in deep meditation, surrounded by a shimmering blue aura. Wu Jin watched from a distance, deeply impressed. Despite the exhaustion of the hunt, she was already back to her training. As he observed her, he began to wonder if he too should try to master the art of magic. The next day, while the mercenary group was arranging their supplies, Claire was surprised when Wu Jin said he wanted to learn magic. She gladly agreed to teach him. Wu Jin felt relieved that she accepted more easily than he expected. Claire explained that she had been wanting to give him something in return anyway, so this was a good opportunity. She recalled the moment when the mad skull charged at her, and Wu Jin stepped in to save her, unlike a certain someone. She made sure to say it loudly enough for their captain to hear. She added that teaching Wu Jin magic was the least she could do, and emphasized that she would have refused if someone from the group who couldn't even protect their mage had asked her. According to her, that was the most basic rule of combat, and Wu Jin was clearly different. Hearing this, Jonathan finally stepped in and pointed out that magic was not something that could be learned overnight, especially since they planned to leave the village in 2 days. Claire quickly responded that Wu Jin could simply travel with them. Jonathan laughed and said that someone as strong as Wu Jin, a magic beast hunter, would have no reason to follow a group of mercenaries. He placed a hand on Wu Jin's shoulder and added that a brave wolf is naturally more comfortable alone, and it would be insulting to invite him on such a small journey. Wu Jin saw through their act and realized that Jonathan was trying to make him refuse politely, but he also admitted to himself that he had no clear plans yet. So, he decided to go along with it and told a small lie. Wu Jin asked where they were heading next. Jonathan replied that they were going to Pioneer City No. 4, where a large job was waiting. Wu Jin then said he was also planning to go there and asked if he could join them, adding that it would help him learn magic along the way. Behind his back, Jonathan and Claire were quietly pleased, knowing they had successfully convinced him, even joking that he was a terrible liar. Jonathan tapped Wu Jin's back and said it was quite a coincidence, while Claire happily welcomed him, saying they would benefit from having a reliable ally. With that, Wu Jin's next destination was decided. After some time, they began their journey toward Pioneer City No. 4. Traveling with them was a massive creature known as a Tarask, a magic beast bred specifically for transportation and one of the few beasts tamed by humans. It was Wu Jin's first time seeing one in person, though he had read about it in the Book of Chronicles. Instead of horses, the mercenaries used it to carry their load. Wu Jin was amazed by its enormous size. Soon, Jonathan gave the signal to move, reminding everyone that they had a long journey ahead. During their travels, Wu Jin trained with Claire every evening. For him, learning something new was never easy. There were many reasons why learning was difficult, but the hardest part was repetition. Wu Jin knew that growth in any skill only came through repeated effort, even when progress slowed or completely stopped. That plateau was always the most painful part, but he was no stranger to such suffering. The 12 years he spent surviving in the demonic realm had already trained him to endure it. Day after day, he continued practicing magic. Then, one day, he finally saw a faint blue light near his face, which popped like a bubble. Claire, who had just arrived from the camp, began clapping and congratulated him for successfully sensing magic. So that was mana, Wu Jin said in realization. He admitted that it took him 10 days just to feel it, proving how difficult learning magic truly was. Claire encouraged him, saying that while he was a bit slow, he still did well. She added that some people with no talent spend their entire lives without ever sensing mana. She then took out a bottle filled with blue liquid and said it was time for the next step. Claire poured the liquid into a glass and told Wu Jin to remove his shirt, which left him confused. Still, he followed her instructions. Using the blue liquid, Claire began drawing runes on his back. Wu Jin asked what she was doing, and she explained that she was creating a pathway to inject mana into his body. Once she finished, she told him she would begin and instructed him to focus on feeling it. After Wu Jin confirmed, Claire started injecting magic. The runes on his back began to glow and float, and Wu Jin immediately felt a powerful sensation. Mana surged around both of them. This feeling was completely different from when he first sensed mana. It was far stronger. Deep inside his body, he could feel something thicker than blood flowing. Claire asked if he could feel it, and Wu Jin confirmed that he could sense something moving within him. Claire declared that he had successfully taken his first step in using magic. She explained that there were 3 stages: sensing mana, storing it within the body, and finally using it. Since Wu Jin had completed the first stage, they would now move on to the second. Claire told him she would guide the mana toward his heart, while he focused on creating a vessel within his body, similar to the sensation of holding his breath. Wu Jin followed her instructions, and Claire began controlling the mana. However, as she did, she suddenly sensed something terrifying inside Wu Jin. It felt as if a dark and ominous presence was about to devour her. She tried to stop, but it was too late. Her mana was being absorbed rapidly. Panic set in as she realized that if it continued, all of her mana would be drained. Just as she was about to lose consciousness, the red wolf rushed in, grabbed her, and pulled her away from Woojin. Claire was shocked that the wolf had saved her, but it had sensed her danger. Woojin stood up and asked if she was all right, but Claire was still shaken by what she had witnessed. In a person's mental world, where their power and nature take form, she had seen something deeply ominous within Woojin. Confused by her silence, Woojin asked what was wrong. Claire then stood up and asked him honestly if he had ever eaten a monster core. Woojin, unfamiliar with the term, asked what it meant. Claire explained that it was the crystal found inside a monster's body. Woojin realized she was referring to what he called monster essence and confirmed that he had been consuming them. Claire was shocked and asked how many he had eaten. Woojin replied that he had been eating them consistently for about 10 years while hunting, estimating the number to be in the tens of thousands. When he asked if there was a problem, Claire shouted in alarm that it was a serious issue. According to her, anyone who consumes a monster core either dies or turns into a monster. That revelation left Woojin both shocked and unsettled. Karma, also known as retribution, is the name of the turbid energy found in the demonic realm. Living beings that absorb it gain bizarre abilities within their bodies. A monster core is the nucleus formed from that accumulated karma. The next day, the group resumed their journey, but Claire remained troubled by what she had learned about Woojin. In this world, there exists a group called the Dark Priest. When the otherworldly gate opened and karma spread across the land, some humans began following the monsters that absorbed the karma, even calling themselves angels. These people consumed monster cores, and some even sacrificed humans to monsters, earning them the label of madmen. Because Woojin had been eating monster cores for 10 years, Claire initially suspected he might be a dark priest. However, if he truly were one, he would not openly admit it or reveal his mental world. This made her doubt her suspicion, yet it only deepened the mystery. Even if Woojin did not know the dangers, she could not understand why he would willingly eat something so gross. Claire finds Woojin a very mysterious man. She warned him again to stop consuming monster cores, explaining that he had only been lucky so far and could die at any moment. Woojin considered her words. If eating monster cores truly caused death or transformation, then why was he still fine? But at the same time, he could not ignore the changes within himself, the lack of guilt after killing and his growing desire to fight. He told Claire he would try to stop, but she firmly corrected him, saying he must stop completely. She added that if he continued, not only would his life be at risk, but he might also lose the ability to use magic. This alarmed Woojin, and he asked if that was true. Claire found it strange that he seemed more concerned about magic than his own life. She explained that in his current condition, using mana manifestation would be difficult, but he could still learn mana arts. It was the first time Woojin had heard of such a term. After a long journey, they finally arrived at the 4th pioneer city. They gathered near a fountain where an angel statue stood tall above it. Woojin was amazed by the large number of mercenaries gathered in one place. Claire told him it was too early to be surprised. Not only was the request massive in scale, but it was also being overseen by a holy knight. Soon, Holy Knight Raymond passed by their group, and Woojin immediately felt an overwhelming aura from him, something far beyond that of ordinary mercenaries. He could tell at once that the Holy Knight was no ordinary human. Woojin asked if it was normal for so many people to gather under a Holy Knight's command. Claire explained that it was because the request came from the golden bug. Woojin wondered if it was some kind of insect-type monster, but Claire questioned whether he was joking or truly unaware. His expression made it clear that he had no idea. Jonathan then explained that the golden bug was actually the greatest businessman in the region, a wealthy tycoon with countless assets. However, he had recently died under mysterious circumstances. When Woojin asked if he had been killed, Jonathan replied that there were rumors, but nothing was confirmed. Woojin then questioned why so many people had gathered if the man was already dead. Jonathan explained that the golden bug had 2 sons, and since they inherited his fortune, someone needed to transport their wealth safely within the barrier. That task was the current request. Suddenly, someone called out the Black Marlin mercenary group, and they were asked to come forward. Jonathan pushed Woojin and told him to come along for this very important moment. He then introduced Woojin to the Holy Knight as the top power of their group, the person who had not only caught a mad skull, but also tamed a werewolf. People around them began whispering, asking if Woojin was the rumored head crusher, though many were doubtful, remarking that he didn't look particularly strong. Woojin heard what the people were calling him and found the name completely nonsensical. Jonathan asked him to just ride with it for a moment so that things would go well. The Holy Knight looked at Woojin with disbelief, but they still received the offer for 100 gold coins and were instructed to depart the next day as soon as the sun rose. Jonathan shouted with gladness, but Woojin found it weird that anyone would pay 100 gold coins just to move some luggage. Jonathan explained that this is simply how the field works. Half is for the labor, and the other half is for the name value. That was how the hiring fee was set, and it was all thanks to Woojin's name value as the head crusher that they secured such a great rate. Woojin asked why people called him that, and Jonathan explained it was a nickname attached to him because he crushed the heads of the monsters he faced. Woojin found it funny and thought that whoever came up with that nickname had a terrible naming sense. As they walked away from the Holy Knight, people congratulated them on the 100 gold coin job, saying it was like hitting the jackpot. Even with that terrible nickname, Woojin still believed that the level of fame he had gained was a good thing because it would help him learn mana arts. Later, at the mercenary quarters, the atmosphere was lively. Mercenaries gathered, drinking and watching matches in a central arena, shouting and cheering for the fighters. One match ended with a decisive elbow strike. Afterward, Claire approached Woojin and asked if he planned to participate and whether he would be all right. Woojin had learned that Holy Knights were highly skilled in mana arts, so he planned to draw their attention and learn from them. He reassured Claire that he had a plan. After preparing, Woojin stepped into the arena. He recalled from the Book of Chronicles that Holy Knights tend to take interest in strong individuals, and if acknowledged, they offer favorable treatment. For Woojin, this was his opportunity. In the arena, mercenaries fought while risking their reputations. Woojin's first opponent attacked using a Dempsey roll boxing style, but Woojin easily avoided it. He countered with a slap, grabbed his opponent's head, and ended the match with a headbutt. The crowd laughed and cheered, saying he truly lived up to his nickname. Another mercenary shouted, declaring that he will be the next opponent. With just one fight, Woojin had already caught the Holy Knight's attention, but that was not enough. This was only the beginning of his plan. He intended to defeat more opponents to prove his strength. If he defeated 2 or 3, it might spark curiosity. But if he defeated 10, the Holy Knight would surely intervene. At the Holy Knight's table, Raymond ordered his subordinate, Rex, to fight Woojin. Rex was surprised and displeased that an apprentice knight would be sent against a mere mercenary. However, Woojin had already anticipated this move. When he heard the order, he declined. Instead, he intended to use this moment to negotiate. His true goal was to learn mana arts directly from the Holy Knight. Claire, Jonathan, and the rest of the mercenaries were confused about why Woojin refused the challenge. Rex angrily demanded an explanation, but Woojin only let out a sigh. While Rex burned with frustration, Holy Knight Raymond quietly observed the situation. After a moment, he asked Woojin if he was injured anywhere. Woojin calmly confirmed that he was perfectly fine. Raymond then questioned why he would refuse the duel. Woojin stepped forward and explained that he was a mercenary, a man who pursued money and power. Since he would be fighting a Holy Knight's apprentice, he had no intention of doing it for free. Instead, he proposed a bet. Raymond replied that for a bet to be valid, both sides needed something they desired. He then asked what Woojin could possibly offer. Without hesitation, Woojin pulled out a pouch filled with gold coins, confidently stating that while he might not have status, he certainly had an overwhelming amount of money. The mercenaries burst into laughter, calling him insane for trying to gamble with a holy knight who lived by honor. Some even questioned how lightly he viewed them. Rex grew furious, shouting that they had no need for his money. However, Raymond stopped him and suggested a different condition. Instead of gold, they would waive all liability for any injuries sustained during the fight. Woojin immediately agreed, relieved that he would not have to worry about compensation and could fight freely. With a thumbs up, he accepted the terms and added that he would state his true request after the duel. Woojin and Rex stepped into the arena as the crowd erupted in excitement. Both fighters stood ready, focused, and prepared. The mercenaries cheered loudly, shouting Woojin's nickname, Head Crusher, while one even admitted he had bet his life savings on Woojin's victory. Claire, however, warned Woojin to signal if things became dangerous, but Woojin assured her that he would win. Rex then asked Raymond how serious he should be, and Raymond told him to give it his all, as Woojin would not be an easy opponent. Rex acknowledged the order and released a yellow aura. The crowd reacted instantly, recognizing it as mana arts. Rex channeled the aura into his feet and dashed forward at incredible speed. Woojin remained calm and focused, noting that Rex's movements were far more refined than those of ordinary fighters. Rex launched a powerful punch infused with aura, but Woojin dodged it with ease. He knew that taking a direct hit could be fatal. Witnessing mana arts in action for the first time only deepened his interest in learning it. Rex attacked again, and although Woojin blocked, the sheer force pushed him back. Rex then mocked him, saying that while he might have a reputation in the demonic realm, he was still nothing more than a wild beast and would soon regret underestimating a holy knight. The spectators were shocked to see Woojin being pushed back, with some even losing confidence in their bets. Claire watched with concern, while Raymond silently analyzed the battle. Rex continued his relentless assault, while Woojin focused entirely on defense. Raymond found this strange. Woojin had ended previous fights instantly, yet now he was holding back. He began to suspect that Woojin had a hidden intention. Suddenly, Rex unleashed a powerful aura-infused strike, but Woojin deflected it with one hand, sending the force toward the spectators. Jonathan was stunned, unable to believe that someone could deflect mana arts with bare hands. However, what shocked him even more was what Woojin said next. Woojin calmly declared that he had finished measuring Rex's combat ability and would now test his durability. With that, he delivered a powerful body blow that nearly knocked Rex unconscious. Even Raymond was surprised to see Rex react so heavily to a single strike. As Rex struggled to breathe, Raymond realized that Woojin had not been waiting for an opening. He had been enjoying the fight. Woojin, on the other hand, looked satisfied that Rex had endured his attack, assuming it was due to mana arts. Curious, he wondered how many more hits Rex could withstand. But before he could continue, Raymond stepped in and ordered the fight to stop, declaring their defeat. He assured Woojin that they would honor their promise and asked to end the match. Woojin felt slightly disappointed as he was just getting started, but his plan had already succeeded. The crowd erupted in cheers, celebrating Woojin's victory. Later, at the Golden Bug Wolf's mansion, the first son, Derek, and the second son, Cedric, were seen eating heavily at their table. Cedric asked if it would really take 10 days to reach the safety of the wall. Derek angrily cursed the Order Alliance, complaining that even after spending so much money, they still had to wait 10 days for an escort. He mocked their inefficiency, calling them all talk and no substance. Cedric, still eating, asked if they would be safe until then. Derek replied that they had no choice but to endure and hope their bodies would last. Behind them, two blue monster cores could be seen, hinting at something far more dangerous lurking beneath the surface. The next day, Raymond prepared to demonstrate mana arts to Wu Jin. Mana arts are techniques that utilize mana as if it were part of the body, enhancing physical strength or weapons. Anyone with a bit of talent can use it, but depending on mastery, it can become a basic technique powerful enough to split mountains and seas. Raymond demonstrated one of his techniques, Sacred Fire Slash. With a single swing, he cleanly cut through several trees. The sound of them crashing to the ground echoed throughout the forest, and he then calmly sheathed his sword. Rex immediately applauded, praising Raymond as radiant and calling him the hope of all holy knights, even asking how he could be so perfect. Raymond cut him off and ordered him to step back, and Rex obeyed instantly like a loyal servant. Wu Jin quietly compared him to the Red Wolf, someone who followed orders without hesitation. After witnessing the demonstration, Wu Jin admitted that Raymond's mana arts were clearly stronger than what Rex had shown before, though he believed Raymond could likely achieve the same result even without a technique. Raymond then told Wu Jin to focus. Wu Jin gripped his sword and closed his eyes as Raymond explained that just like muscles contract and veins expand, mana could be held within the body in a similar way. Wu Jin recalled his training with Claire, realizing the concept was familiar. As he focused, he immediately sensed mana, and suddenly a tremendous amount surged from his body. Confused, Wu Jin wondered when he had gained such a vast reserve. The flow felt calm and light at first, reminding him of the mana he had absorbed from Claire. However, the blue mana surrounding him gradually shifted into a deep violet. While Raymond continued instructing him to control and consume the mana, he suddenly noticed something unusual. A violet aura had already formed around Wu Jin's sword. Raymond was stunned. Wu Jin had managed to use mana arts immediately after learning it. But what shocked him even more was the ominous nature of Wu Jin's mana. He knew that mana arts reflected a person's mental world, yet he had never seen such a dark and unsettling aura before. Meanwhile, Wu Jin smiled, delighted that he could now use mana arts. He tested it with a few sword movements, finding it somewhat inefficient for the effort required, likely due to his low proficiency. Even so, he found it exciting and looked forward to using it in real combat. After some time, they resumed their journey. Claire was amazed that Wu Jin had already grasped mana arts, knowing it was not something easily learned. She praised his talent and effort, but Wu Jin humbly said it was thanks to her. He then asked if she was all right, recalling how her mana had flowed into him during their training. Claire reassured him that she was fine and told him to consider it a gift in return for saving her life. Wu Jin felt that the amount of mana he received was too much to dismiss so casually, but he acknowledged that it helped him learn faster. At that moment, Rex, riding his horse nearby, interrupted them, mocking Wu Jin for celebrating such a basic achievement. He told him not to slack off and reminded him that he should be grateful to Raymond for taking the time to train him. Wu Jin found his words meaningless and assumed Rex was still bitter about losing their duel. Feeling slightly bored, Wu Jin decided to provoke him. Without warning, he slapped Rex's horse, causing it to panic and run off. Raymond immediately intervened, telling Wu Jin to be patient and assuring him that he would keep Rex under control. Wu Jin felt a bit disappointed by Raymond's response. Meanwhile, someone atop the Tarrasque was shouting angrily, demanding food and complaining loudly. Curious, Wu Jin asked what was happening, but Raymond dismissed it, saying it was just the usual behavior of their employers. He explained that the Golden Bug's sons had been overeating ever since their father's death, throwing tantrums if their meals were delayed even slightly. Raymond advised ignoring them to avoid unnecessary trouble. However, Wu Jin found their behavior strange. It did not feel like simple stress eating. The more food they consumed, the more he sensed something unnatural, like a monster was about to emerge. Suddenly, the Tarrasque began rampaging before collapsing to the ground. Raymond and Rex rushed forward and demanded a report. A mercenary confirmed that the Tarrasque had suddenly gone berserk while carrying the clients. Concerned for the Golden Bug's sons, Raymond immediately released a golden aura and drew his sword, declaring that their safety was the top priority. He ordered Rex to help subdue the beast, even if it meant killing it. Rex acknowledged the command without hesitation. Then, from the tent atop the Tarrasque, a sharp spike burst out, tearing everything apart. A grotesque creature with a massive mouth emerged. Claire shouted in alarm, identifying it as an abomination. When Wu Jin asked what it was, she explained that it was once human but had turned into a monster due to the demonic realm's karma. Wu Jin was stunned by the revelation. Raymond and Rex immediately launched their attack. Raymond leaped forward and used Sacred Fire Slash to cut through the creature, then signaled Rex to follow up. Rex jumped in and struck again, slicing the monster into pieces. The abomination fell to the ground, but to their shock, it instantly regenerated as if nothing had happened. Raymond realized how fast its regeneration was and shouted a warning, but it was already too late. The creature had fully recovered, and Rex was caught off guard. In an instant, the abomination attacked from behind and devoured him whole, leaving only one of his arms behind. Raymond rushed toward the monster to save Rex, but he was too late. Wu Jin and the mercenaries witnessed everything, and shock spread across the group. When Raymond saw that only Rex's arm remained, he was consumed by rage. He unleashed Sacred Fire Slash, cutting the abomination open, and immediately rushed forward as it collapsed, desperately searching for Rex. Grabbing the monster's mouth, he shouted Rex's name, vowing to save him no matter what. However, Raymond became completely unaware of his surroundings. While he searched, the abomination began regenerating again, preparing to strike. Wu Jin clicked his tongue when he saw this. Without hesitation, he rushed forward, cut through the incoming tentacles, and pulled Raymond away just in time. He carried him back to the mercenaries and dropped him down. The group grew anxious. With the Holy Knight down, they feared they might all die. Meanwhile, the abomination fully regenerated once again. As Wu Jin faced the creature, he couldn't help but think about its origin. A human turned monster. It made him wonder if he would suffer the same fate if he continued eating monster cores. The thought lingered, but he pushed it aside, knowing that hesitation would only get him killed. He focused on the battle instead. From his experience, he knew the monster had incredible digestion and endless regeneration. If he kept attacking blindly, it would turn into a battle of attrition. He needed to find its weakness while conserving his strength. The abomination suddenly struck with a tentacle. Wu Jin blocked it with his broadsword and pushed back, but the impact still damaged his ribs. At that moment, Jonathan threw a spear and shouted that they would assist him. Claire cast a buff on the mercenaries, strengthening them. The group quickly adapted, pinning down the severed parts of the monster to prevent them from reattaching. One of them confirmed that the regeneration had slowed thanks to Claire's magic. Watching them, Wu Jin smiled, realizing they were far braver than he expected. However, the abomination sensed the danger and changed. Its aura shifted from violet to red, and the arm covering its shoulder moved aside, revealing faces embedded within its body. Someone shouted in horror. The faces belonged to the Golden Bug's sons. The monster raised its arm, and its tentacles shot out, reclaiming the severed pieces the mercenaries had pinned down. Wu Jin tried to stop it, but he was struck and pushed back. One of the faces lunged at him with its tongue, but Wu Jin managed to block it. Jonathan checked on him, and Wu Jin confirmed he was fine, though he warned that the abomination had grown stronger. Jonathan agreed, noting that the change happened when the sons' faces appeared. He asked Wu Jin what their next move should be. Wu Jin explained that they needed to keep attacking until only the internal core remained, but the main issue was its regeneration. Jonathan reassured him, saying they had already learned its attack patterns despite its increased strength. Hearing this, Wu Jin smiled. A violet aura formed around his sword as he activated mana arts. He declared that he could now cut the monster freely. Without hesitation, he charged forward, slicing through every tentacle in his path until he reached the abomination. He struck relentlessly, shouting for the others to stop its regeneration. Again and again, he cut through its body until its internal core was exposed. With confidence, Wu Jin declared it over and split the core in half. The mercenaries collapsed, gasping for air from exhaustion, while Claire tended to Raymond. The core fell to the ground, still attempting to regenerate. The group erupted in celebration. Not only had they survived, but they had also defeated a terrifying abomination, a feat that would greatly boost their reputation. Wu Jin, however, remained silent, watching the core as it slowly regenerated. Hidden among the trees, a woman with red hair and a veil observed everything. She spoke softly, saddened that the Golden Bug's sons, Derek and Cedric, were no different from their father. Tears fell as she mocked them for their incompetence and uselessness. Her gaze then shifted to Wu Jin, recognizing him as the one who fought the abomination. As Wu Jin quietly kicked the regenerated core, picked it up and hid it, the woman became curious about him, both his identity and his reason for taking the core. That night, Wu Jin camped away from the mercenaries' tents and took out the monster core to eat it. After the first bite, he suddenly saw a man tied up and realized he was witnessing someone else's memory. A figure approached the bound man and coldly told him that the reason his father, Golden Bug Wolf, was no longer alive was simply because of his incompetence. It was the red-haired woman. She was speaking to one of the Golden Bug brothers and told him that if he wanted to live, he needed to show her results. She then took out a small bottle filled with blue liquid and added that he needed to prove that he was special and worth joining her. After that, she dropped the blue liquid into his eye. The moment it touched him, a small tentacle began swirling inside it, and his veins turned black, as if a monster was moving through his body. The man struggled to fight it, but it was already too late. Wu Jin suddenly returned to his body and was hit by a wave of nausea. He ran away from camp and threw up. This happens very rarely, but consuming an internal core can sometimes grant the power of that monster, and in some cases, it can also make the person absorb the monster's memories. After throwing up, Wu Jin realized that internal cores were full of side effects. He returned to camp and wondered if the memory he'd absorbed belonged to one of the Golden Bug brothers. He had just witnessed them turning into abomination after something was poured into their eyes. Wu Jin remembered that abominations are created when humans are influenced by karma, which made him wonder if the blue liquid he saw contained karma and whether the red-haired woman was one of the dark priests. At that moment, Claire called for Wu Jin and told him they needed to leave immediately. When she got closer, she noticed that he was sweating heavily and with a suspicious look asked what had really happened, immediately suspecting that he had eaten another internal core. As he wiped away his sweat, Wu Jin wondered if he should tell the others what he had seen, but he had no idea how to explain that he had witnessed a monster's memories as a side effect of consuming an internal core, so he decided that saying unnecessary things might only create misunderstandings and chose to keep it a secret. He then told Claire that she did not need to worry about anything and walked back to the mercenaries' camp. As Wu Jin and Claire left the forest, the red-haired woman watched them from afar because she had seen everything. She continued observing Wu Jin as he spoke with his teammates and with Holy Knight Raymond. She was curious whether Wu Jin was plotting something because she had seen him eating internal cores, yet he was still working alongside the Order Alliance. As she departed, only one thought remained in her mind. Would they become allies or enemies the next time they met? After that, everyone gathered together, prepared a burial for the people they had lost, and offered a prayer led by Holy Knight Raymond. Raymond praised Rex's bravery and honored the fact that he had dedicated his entire life to peace. As Raymond asked the gods to watch over Rex, Wu Jin felt both shame and sadness, because Rex was still young. While the prayer continued, Raymond suddenly noticed something. He looked up the hill and saw a red wolf. With the sun's rays shining behind it, the red wolf looked almost radiant. Raymond immediately knelt and offered his gratitude. Woojin was dumbfounded and asked what he was doing. Raymond explained that he was expressing gratitude for the comfort of Ea, the god of harmony. He added that in the Order's view, the red wolf was considered the closest companion of Ea, and to Raymond, the appearance of the red wolf meant that Ea was comforting them. Woojin casually replied that it was just his pet, Mutt. Raymond was instantly enraged and told Woojin that calling a red wolf a mutt was deeply disrespectful because a monster of that caliber could never be tamed by any human being. Wanting to prove that he was telling the truth, Woojin called out to Mutt in an intimidating voice and told the red wolf to stop acting and come over. The red wolf felt Woojin's gaze and without hesitation jumped off the cliff, ran straight toward him, and placed its paw into Woojin's hand like a well-trained dog. Raymond could not believe his eyes. Even the Order had never been able to tame a red wolf, so he could not understand how a mere individual like Woojin had done it. Woojin simply said that he had killed a werewolf, and the creature had been following him ever since. That answer shocked Raymond even more. Raymond then turned toward Rex's grave and quietly asked Woojin for a favor. He said that if the red wolf did not yet have a proper name, he wanted it to be called Rex. His first reason was simple, because calling a sacred beast of the Order Mutt was a bit inappropriate. His second reason carried much more weight. With the single-minded resolve to purify the entire demonic realm, Raymond wished for Rex's will. The will that fought against evil, not to end there, because even in his final moments, Rex had never let go of his sword. With respect and sincerity, Raymond asked Woojin to allow the red wolf to carry Rex's will under the name of Rex. Woojin thought about it carefully, then looked at the red wolf and asked if it was willing to take that name. The red wolf nodded. After receiving its approval, Woojin accepted the proposal, and from that moment on, the red wolf would be called Rex. Raymond was relieved and sincerely thanked Woojin. While Woojin and Raymond were speaking, an old man approached and politely asked if he had arrived at a bad time. Raymond turned to look and immediately recognized him. The old man had a covering over his eyes, and Raymond respectfully addressed him as Elder. When Woojin heard that title, he immediately realized that this must be one of the highest authorities in the area. The old man, surrounded by a faint yellow energy, was Bo, the elder of the third pioneer city. After hearing that the elder had arrived, all of the mercenaries gathered near Raymond and welcomed him. The elder apologized for visiting during their time of grief, but Raymond told him there was no need to apologize and asked the reason for his visit. The elder explained that an investigation was needed regarding the deaths of the Golden Bug's sons. Raymond was alarmed and asked if he believed the mercenaries were responsible. Woojin found the suspicion natural since the client had died while they were transporting a massive fortune. Raymond respectfully asked if the evidence he had provided was not enough. The elder reassured him that it was plenty, but something was still missing. As he walked toward Woojin, he added that they still did not know how the Golden Bug brothers had turned into abomination. He said he could smell the stench of a dark priest all over the incident, and then asked for Woojin's opinion, which shocked him. More than that, Woojin was surprised that the elder already knew his name. He asked if the elder suspected him of being a dark priest. They later moved to the Vritra Arena in the third pioneer city. There, the elder explained that people as strong as Woojin usually begin showing talent from a young age. But Woojin had simply appeared out of nowhere and started pulling off one massive feat after another. On top of that, he had coincidentally become involved in the abomination incident. The elder asked if all of that did not seem suspicious, even to himself. Woojin realized that the people around the pioneer cities kept tabs on anyone strong, so the elder's suspicions made sense, especially because he was not from this world. Still, he could not understand one thing. He asked what any of that had to do with sparring. Raymond agreed and pointed out that Woojin had just come out of a long and exhausting battle, so his body was not yet in perfect condition. The elder did not care. He even asked if Wu Jin was refusing to cooperate with the investigation. Both Wu Jin and Raymond were surprised by how unreasonable he was. Wu Jin wondered what he should do because he could not simply beat up someone who suspected him of being a dark priest just because he was strong. Fighting an old man and an elder on top of that also felt troublesome. The elder laughed and noticed that Wu Jin had a lot on his mind. He dropped his staff and asked if Wu Jin was worried simply because he was old. Then he released a powerful yellow aura and told Wu Jin there was no need to hold back because the reason he had risen to the position of elder was through pure strength. In an instant, he rushed toward Wu Jin with unbelievable speed. Even Wu Jin was caught by surprise. The elder used one of his techniques, Great Bell Strike, focusing energy into his palm before striking Wu Jin in the chest. The blow sent Wu Jin flying out of the arena and even shattered the wall. Raymond shouted a warning, telling Wu Jin that the Vritra monks were martial artists with incredible combat strength and that the elder was the strongest among them, so he should not let his guard down. But the moment Wu Jin stood up, the elder was already charging at him again and laughing at Raymond for being too biased. He sidestepped while rushing forward and told Raymond that if he kept taking Wu Jin's side, he might get jealous and lose control of his strength. The elder had already reached Wu Jin and unleashed another powerful palm strike, but Wu Jin dodged and immediately countered with a sword slash. To his surprise, the elder blocked the blade with his bare hand. The elder was impressed by Wu Jin's counter, while Wu Jin was shocked that his sword had been stopped so easily. He could feel the intensity of the attack because the elder had struck the exact same spot where the abomination had wounded him. But then Wu Jin discovered something astonishing. His body had completely healed. The injuries from the abomination, which should have left him bedridden for 2 weeks, were gone. Even the damage from the elder's recent strike was already beginning to recover. He immediately suspected that eating the monster core had given him the abomination's regeneration ability. Wu Jin smiled because he realized he had hit a jackpot. With that realization, Wu Jin began exchanging blows with the elder. The elder became fired up seeing Wu Jin fight so fiercely, even after claiming he was injured. In his mind, he wanted to spar with Wu Jin even more, but he knew he could not act childishly. Since he had already confirmed the rumors about Wu Jin's strength, he decided it was time for the next step. He focused energy into his head and activated his mind's eye technique. Wu Jin was caught off guard. The elder believed that emptying oneself was the path to becoming truly one with oneself, which was why he had given up his 2 eyes so that mind's eye could open his 3rd eye. It was a skill that could pierce through the essence of the soul and reveal whether Wu Jin was a dark priest or a rising new light. The elder first saw the same monster that Claire had seen when she entered Wu Jin's mental world, but he commanded the beast to step back, and it obeyed. Yet as he entered deeper, he found something far more terrifying. Multiple enormous beasts stood around him, gazing down as if ready to devour him. Back in the arena, Wu Jin, unable to sense Bo's mana, tapped his shoulder and asked if he was all right. The elder was trembling and out of breath. What he had seen inside Wu Jin's mental world was beyond unpleasant. It was terrifying. With all the years and experience he had accumulated, this was the first time he had witnessed something so horrifying. Yet what surprised him even more was that Wu Jin's mental world had not completely collapsed, which confirmed that he was not a dark priest. When Wu Jin noticed that the elder was still unresponsive, he called out to him again. The elder immediately apologized and asked for forgiveness for being rude. He explained that verifying whether Wu Jin was a dark priest or not was extremely important. Since Wu Jin had not noticed the mana the elder had released, he was confused and asked for an explanation. At that moment, a woman entered the arena and interrupted them. She explained that it was because she wanted to entrust Wu Jin with a quest related to the dark priests. Wu Jin asked who she was. The woman walked closer and said that she was pleased to meet him. Her name was Cindy, the youngest daughter of the Golden Bug. After that conversation, Cindy, Wu Jin, and Elder Bo walked into the forest. Cindy explained that this was not the first time an abomination had appeared. Recently, with the third pioneer city as the epicenter, many people had been turning into abominations, and even the surrounding forest was rapidly being corrupted into the demonic realm. Woojin found it strange that even the forest was changing. After some time, Cindy told them they had arrived. A core was attached to several trees. Priests were gathered around it in prayer, and masked figures were spraying an unknown substance onto the core that looked like holy water. A rift core was an object that spread the demonic realm, and any area where it appeared would gradually become part of it. The priests continued praying for mercy upon their land, while the masked figures kept spraying the strange liquid. Woojin could see their determination to purify the core, but he also knew that it was not an easy task. Still, something felt strange. From what he knew, the power of karma was supposed to weaken the farther it moved from the Northern Empire. Cindy confirmed that his information was correct. Woojin immediately suspected that someone had planted the rift core, and Cindy confirmed his suspicion at once. He already knew that it had to be the work of a dark priest. Cindy added that if the number of abominations and rift cores continued increasing at the current rate, the third city they had worked so hard to build would be in great danger. Elder Bo worried that in the worst-case scenario, they could lose the entire city. That was why they had been carefully searching for the dark priest's hideout, and they had finally found the suspected location of the base. With all of that explained, the elder asked Woojin if he would join the extermination operation that would take place in 2 weeks. Cindy assured him that he would receive the highest level of compensation. Woojin finally understood the quest he was being offered. It was a request from Bo, the elder of the third pioneer city, and Cindy, the only remaining descendant of the golden bug. A request from figures of that level made Woojin smile, and for a moment he wondered if he had finally been acknowledged. After that, the mercenaries continued their journey. Claire told Woojin that she had been genuinely worried because if he had been framed as a dark priest, death would have been the lightest punishment, and she had also heard that they would make him suffer before the end. Hearing that made Woojin imagine the Iron Maiden. Not long after, Claire announced that they had finally arrived. Woojin was stunned when he saw the new city. It was the city behind the walls, Wall City Jurgis. On a scale incomparable to the pioneer cities, it was the safest place in this world. For a moment, Woojin wondered if he would be able to live there someday, but he knew it was not the right time yet. He then called out to Raymond, and Raymond told the other mercenaries to take a short break before moving on. While the Tarasques were taking a nap, Jonathan was surprised to hear that Woojin would be leaving for the third pioneer city. Woojin explained that he had received a new request there. Jonathan knew that going separate ways after a job was normal in their line of work, but he still felt a little sad because Woojin's decision had come so suddenly. Woojin agreed and asked about their next plan. Jonathan and another mercenary proudly told him that they would have some drinks and then drink even more afterward. Woojin found them amusing and then asked Claire about her plan. Claire said that she would have to look for another job. Woojin was confused because she should have earned enough money from the transport mission. Claire explained that although the payout had been decent, she was still far from having enough to go to the magic tower. Woojin asked what the magic tower was. Claire told him that even though she called herself a mage, she had only gathered common knowledge, so her abilities were still barely beyond the beginner level. It was not that she had trouble making a living with her current skills, but she had become a little greedy and wanted to learn higher-class magic. That was why she had been saving money so she could attend the magic tower, where she could study more advanced magic. Woojin compared it to a university and found it admirable that she was working so hard just to keep learning. After thinking for a moment, he searched through his bag and pulled out a pouch filled with gold coins. He asked Claire if that would be enough. Claire was stunned and asked what he was thinking. Woojin simply told her that it was to help her get to the magic tower. Claire humbly refused, saying that she could not possibly be shameless enough to accept it, but Woojin told her that he was not giving it away for free. It was a gift because he was indebted to her. Jonathan and the other mercenaries were amazed by the amount he offered. Claire was still hesitant, so Wu Jin placed the pouch in her hands without asking permission and simply said his goodbye. "I'll see you again." Claire's face turned pinkish red as she quickly grabbed him. She thanked Wu Jin and promised that someday she would repay the favor. Wu Jin then said his goodbyes to everyone. Claire and Jonathan looked saddened as they said farewell. Wu Jin then left to return to the third pioneer city. The Red Wolf, Rex, who had been resting, stood up and gave Holy Knight Raymond a small nod as if saying something. That gesture made Raymond smile, and he quietly said, "Take care too, Rex." Everyone watched in silence as Wu Jin and Rex walked away from the group. Not long after, it was time for Wu Jin and the rest of the extermination team to depart. As they prepared to leave, Wu Jin turned his head and nodded. Seeing this, Elder Bo raised his hand and waved goodbye to Wu Jin. Cindy teased the elder, saying that he claimed nothing would happen, yet he still came out because he was worried. The elder looked confused by her words, and Cindy pointed out that he had personally said Wu Jin seemed to have eaten a monster core. Elder Bo defended Wu Jin, saying that simply because he had eaten a monster core, it did not mean he should be considered a dark priest. Cindy replied that what he was saying was incredibly dangerous. It was common sense that once someone consumed a monster core, they would become intoxicated by power and lose their sense of self. She then asked, Master, please tell me honestly. Do you still hope that that guy still has his humanity left?" She suggested that this was why he was protecting Wu Jin. At that moment, the image of a mysterious, masked figure appeared in the elder's mind. The question left him speechless, and he brushed it aside, saying that he did not want to have that conversation. Cindy clicked her tongue, apologized for being disrespectful, and told him that she would keep it a secret for now. But if Wu Jin ever did anything wrong, she would not hesitate to frame him as a dark priest, and if that happened, even the elder who had recommended him would not be safe. As Cindy walked away, Elder Bo quietly reassured himself that Wu Jin would not do anything bad. Wu Jin had already consumed numerous monster cores and had become unimaginably strong, yet his mental world had not collapsed. To the elder, that was proof that a person could preserve their humanity even after eating monster cores. The world simply was not ready to accept Wu Jin yet, so for now, he chose to keep that truth hidden. Elder Bo was certain that the power Wu Jin possessed would one day bring great hope to this world. As the first expeditionary force marched toward the Dark Priest's secret base, the soldiers raised their voices in a battle chant. In the middle of that chanting, Wu Jin suddenly picked up a rock and smashed it against his own head, shocking the soldier beside him. Several soldiers stared in confusion while Wu Jin quietly counted under his breath. After some time, the wound he had made began to heal. He was testing the ability he had gained after consuming monster cores for so long, regeneration. From his observation, a simple bruise took about 10 minutes to heal, while the fracture he had suffered from the abomination had fully recovered in 2 days. With that information, he concluded that even if his arm were cut off, it would probably regenerate within a month. Wu Jin smiled. The reason he kept eating monster cores was to gain extraordinary abilities, and now he wanted to test that power in real combat. At that moment, someone approached him and said that he had heard Wu Jin's nickname was Head Crusher, and asked if it really came from crushing his own head. Wu Jin apologized if he had startled him and explained that there was simply something he wanted to test. The man introduced himself as Roland, the supreme commander of the expeditionary force from the Order of Harmony. Roland said he did not mind at all because he liked geniuses like Wu Jin. In his view, geniuses were supposed to be a little messed up in the head, so what he had just seen seemed normal enough. Wu Jin asked who he meant by genius, and Roland answered, "I'm talking about you." Since Wu Jin was a mercenary personally recommended by Elder Bo, Roland expected that he had to be an extraordinary genius. Wu Jin found it strange to be called that and had no desire to get close to him. Wu Jin quickly changed the subject and asked about their plan. Roland laughed and said that he really was a genius because he was impatient. He explained that they were heading toward the forest north of the pioneer city. Their first objective was to clear the rift cores in front of them and push their way into the center of enemy territory. Since they could not predict how long the battle would last before reaching the target, their goal for now was to finish everything within 10 days. Wu Jin looked toward the forest and remarked that it did not seem that large, so 10 days felt a little too long. Roland once again called him a genius and said that under normal circumstances it would indeed be a long time. But because of the rift cores, the monster's territory had expanded. Right as he was explaining, a monster suddenly burst out of the ground and lunged toward him. One of the soldiers shouted a warning. Roland instantly drew his sword and split the creature in half. He told Wu Jin that monsters that normally lived deep within the demonic realm were now crawling out into the sunlight, just like that one, so 10 days was actually a short time. Then even more monsters began crawling out from beneath the forest floor and charged toward the soldiers. One of the men shouted, "Ambush! Everyone, prepare for battle!" Multiple monsters burst from the ground and attacked. Wu Jin recognized them as leech rats, but he had not known that they could dig underground. Roland warned everyone to guard their backs, because the moment they left themselves exposed, they would lose their lives. Then Wu Jin suddenly rushed forward. The moment Roland saw him move, he shouted a warning, but he was already too late. With his own eyes, he watched multiple leech rats leap onto Wu Jin and try to bite him. More and more monsters swarmed in until Wu Jin was completely surrounded. Roland shouted again, calling him crazy. But Wu Jin had done it on purpose. His plan was to kill the monsters and secretly eat their cores without the other soldiers noticing. He was thinking that if he consumed all of their monster cores, there was a chance he could inherit the leech rat's ability. He did not really need the power to dig underground, but right now the creatures in front of him no longer looked like monsters. To Wu Jin, they only looked like monster cores, ready to be eaten. He continued eating monster cores even as the monsters gathered around him and prepared to attack. Inheritance occurs when consuming a monster core, and there is only a very low chance of gaining that monster's skill. That was Wu Jin's true secret, the reason he had managed to survive in the demonic realm for 12 years. After some time, he started feeling full after stuffing himself with around 40 monster cores, which should have been more than enough to gain the digging ability. Then suddenly, a hand reached out and grabbed him. One of the soldiers shouted and asked if he was all right. Wu Jin quickly told him that it was dangerous, reassured him that he was fine, and told everyone to maintain their formation. He said it not out of concern, but because he could not secretly eat monster cores anymore. The soldier ignored him, pulled him out, and assured him that they were safe now because the holy choir had begun their performance. Roland and the other holy knights started playing musical instruments, and their music immediately empowered the soldiers. One of the soldiers shouted that he was overflowing with power, and soon the others were slaughtering the monsters with ease. Wu Jin was stunned by what he was witnessing. The soldiers' stamina and defense had increased significantly, and he realized they were all receiving buffs from the Holy Knight's songs. But what surprised him even more was that he had never expected Roland to be a support. He had thought he was a swordsman. After that, the soldiers defeated every monster in sight. When night fell, one of the soldiers announced that they would be recording everyone's performance and asked anyone who had taken part in the battle to gather around. He added that the recorded results would directly affect their rewards. Afterward, one of the soldiers muttered that he still could not understand Wu Jin's actions, from smashing his own head with a rock to charging straight into a horde of monsters and now digging through the dirt. Inside his tent, Wu Jin could be seen digging into the ground. He clicked his tongue because even after eating all those monster cores, he still had not gained the digging ability. He could only conclude that inheriting skills definitely required luck. At that moment, Roland entered the tent to check on his condition. Wu Jin apologized if his actions during the fight with the leech rats had startled him. Roland immediately said that it was nothing like that. He had been more impressed than shocked. He admitted that when Wu Jin jumped into the middle of the horde, he thought he was going to lose his life, but in the end, the results spoke for themselves. Roland had also heard that Wu Jin had hunted 267 leech rats by himself. The average soldier had only taken down 4 or 5, while even the holy knights had only managed around 100 to 150 at most. In Roland's eyes, that was proof that prodigies were built differently. But Wu Jin did not see himself as a prodigy. He knew that if he had focused entirely on hunting instead of secretly eating monster cores, that number could have easily tripled. He then asked Roland if he was part of the support force, which caught him completely off guard. Roland's face turned red as he asked what about it and whether Wu Jin was looking down on supporters. Wu Jin quickly explained that he had simply thought Roland was someone who preferred raw power, so he had only been surprised because it was not what he expected. Roland laughed and admitted that Wu Jin had seen right through him. In his heart, he was the kind of man who also wanted to wield a sword. When Wu Jin asked why he did not simply do that, Roland explained that the reason the Order Alliance fought was for peace. Countless people had lost their homes and were dying because of the demonic realm. In a world like that, he chose the role where he could help the most. He proudly added that while his swordsmanship was only slightly above average, his musical skill was considered top tier even within the Order Alliance. After hearing that, Wu Jin realized that although Roland had seemed annoying when they first met, constantly talking about prodigies, he was actually a much more decent person than he had expected. Wu Jin then asked if he could hear him perform again sometime, and Roland happily agreed. 1 week later, inside a large tent, the leaders gathered for a meeting. Roland reported that they had been advancing deeper into the demonic realm while destroying numerous rift cores, kobolds, and large-eared monsters. It was becoming clear that the deeper they went, the stronger the monsters became. He then asked how the soldiers' morale was holding up. One of the unit leaders replied that the soldiers were far more spirited now than when they had first started, which left Roland confused. And then somewhere in the forest, Wu Jin was cutting down every monster he saw, from kobolds to big-eared monsters. As always, he would take their cores and eat them, hoping to inherit new skills, but even after consuming quite a few, he still had not inherited anything. Back in the meeting, the unit leader continued and reported that the mercenary Wu Jin had been taking care of every single monster almost as soon as it appeared. Roland could not help but laugh and tease the Order Alliance members, asking if it did not sting to be outdone by a single mercenary. One of them sighed and said that it was not a laughing matter. The soldiers had become far too relaxed, and Wu Jin was definitely going to claim a huge portion of the performance rewards. But Roland said that a good thing was still a good thing. Thanks to Wu Jin, they had suffered almost no casualties. And since stronger monsters were beginning to appear, it meant their destination was close, so they should rest while they still could. Deep within the forest, 4 mysterious figures gathered, all looking like dark priests. One of them, wearing a mask, wondered how the Order Alliance had discovered their location. The red-haired woman answered that they had planted so many rift cores around the area that it would have been strange if no one had become suspicious. She added that she believed their youngest had already anticipated this the moment she made her move. Looking towards someone nearby, she said that their chosen youngest sibling could not possibly be that incompetent. A figure wearing a large hat stood before them, then knelt and calmly assured them that there was nothing to worry about. The defenders always had the advantage over the attackers. He smiled and said that the Order Alliance had only reacted slightly earlier than expected, but either way, their actions would not interfere with the great plan of darkness. Back with the expedition team, Roland, Wu Jin, and the rest of the soldiers suddenly stopped in silence. They had arrived at a massive fissure, its depths covered in thick monster webs. Roland stared into the darkness and said in disbelief, "What kind of madness is this?" Hidden within the darkness, countless monsters waited silently, ready to devour anyone who entered.